Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is it. In this episode, we're going to get this duster driving and stopping. We know that we've got a strong running slant 6 from the last episode. We're good to go. So in this episode, we're going to get that training juiced up. We'll get the clutch linkage Z-bar installed and working properly. And we're going to spend some time getting these brakes working. Not going to redo all the brakes, but we're going to check them all over, replace a few parts. Importantly, get the front brakes working. Back brakes I'm less concerned about, but I do want to make sure the car can stop. And so we'll focus on the front and see what the state the back is in. Let's go. Okay, got you under here. We're going to just open this lower drain to start with. I just want to make sure that all the old fluid is out. I'm just going to go ahead and let that spill on the floor. Okay, I think that's good. I'll just snug this up now. That should be good. Give that a wipe so we can just keep track of any leaks. All right, off with the top. We'll get this thing filled up. Just using ATF for this. There we go. I'll just do one more squeeze. Yeah, there we go. She's full now. And a nice mess to clean up later. Ready to go. Okay, we've got the clutch Z-bar linkage and components all here, all clean, dressed, painted, ready to go. All the parts appear to be fine, including the bushings, importantly. We'll re-grease those and get those around the pivot shaft as they go into the Z-bar itself. Feeling good about everything we've got here. This is the transmission. This is the transmission fluid that we put inside the 3-speed tranny. And yeah, let's get these components installed, and this will be all we need to turn those back wheels. Let's go for it. Okay, let's get this linkage installed. First thing we're going to do is put these bushings here on the pivot shaft that is attached to the frame rail on the driver's side here. Sorry if you can't see. I want to make sure that's good and lubed. There, that's good there. We will put some more grease inside the Z-bar itself on both ends. Just getting a decent amount of grease in both ends here. Okay. So it gets installed this way. This end is different than the other end of the Z-bar. This is the end that goes towards the outside of the car. And once this is slid over the pivot shaft from the two bushings, this clip will go over to keep it on there. That's what we'll do now. There, you can see how that keeper wraps around the Z-bar to do just that, keep that Z-bar connected to that bushing. Now we'll get the other pivot shaft, grease it up, and get it bolted in. Okay, first step is to install the bottom bolt here in the bell housing, which will act as a set point when we bring that pivot shaft in. This is that other side of the pivot shaft, and then the final bolt here. So let's get that in. Oh, pardon me, we need the bushings on first. There, that's the way it should be right there. Bushings are installed, fully greased, ready to go. We'll slide that into the pivot, into the Z-bar, and then we'll make the connection to the bell housing. Just like that. Okay. That pivot's nice. That's what you want. Okay, we've got two bushings that go on either end of the levers. Slide those on. These are the plastic bushings I'm referring to that go on either end of the lever. Two levers. There. Okay, this one connects up here to the clutch. And this clasp will go on this linkage here. That keeps that attached. We will put some grease on that in a minute. We need to install this push rod or actuator. This will go against the clutch release and against the other lever with a washer and a clasp. Now, we just got to put this return spring on. And that clips onto that. Might need my pliers for this one. Let's see. I'm sure you don't get the best view of this, but bear with me. Yeah, I'm gonna need a needle nose pliers. There. Okay, we'll put a little bit of lube on those joints, and then I think that's it. I'll come in with some grease later, but right now just a little bit of oil. Okay, I'm gonna go in the car, and you watch and let me know if that works properly. Well, how's it looking? I think we're good to go. Okay, let's start it up and see if the tires move. Let's go. Well, this is great news. We've got a transmission that works, and the clutch, of course, as well works. Um, this car is ready to power itself. Um, we have a bunch more things to do, so we're going to um, top up the fluid in the rear differential. And I did notice when I was in the car working the clutch and the shifter that getting over to third and reverse is a bit tricky. We might need some adjustment on the linkage, so we'll look at doing that. And the thing that I've been putting off, which is the brakes. Look, I think based on what I've seen of the car so far, the brake lines I think are going to be okay. I did have to order new flex lines for the front at least. I got one for the back just in case, but for the front for sure. So we're going to have to replace those. My hope is that replacing the master cylinder, flushing out the lines with some brake clean and compressed air, and then replacing the flex lines together with replacing the wheel cylinders and cleaning up the brake drums themselves because it's four-wheel drums. Cleaning up those, checking the hardware, making sure that we're good, that brakes won't be too bad. I don't think we're going to start busting lines, I hope, because that just makes things get real messy. Of course, I'm worried about rusted lines to the nuts. We'll do a combination of WD-40 and some heat, back and forth, and hopeful that we can break those free. Anyhow, we got to get the brakes. So let's get going because right now this car can power itself. We just need to make sure now it can stop itself. Let's go. Okay, next step is pulling this master cylinder off. Just gonna put those bolts there. Get some heat going here. What I'm most worried about is that nut seizing to the brake line itself and twisting it and breaking it. I just don't want to get into replacing that, so I'm going to heat this up, give it some more juice, and we'll test and see how we make out. Let's just give that a wiggle, see how we do. Okay, we might be okay. Yes, I think we are. More juice. Yeah, we're good on this one. That's good news. Excellent. Okay, let's do the other one. Heat. Okay, let's try that. Might have it. Yes, we do. Beautiful. That's a win. Big win. You can see actually that there's very little corrosion on the end of that brake line, which, wow, I just didn't expect that. Again, I guess the origin of this car has really helped us out here. It hasn't seen the heavy salt and humid climates, so big win. Okay, so now let's endeavor to get those 4 bolts off. Okay, I guess I'm gonna have to unhook that from the inside. Is that? Yeah, okay. Gonna have to get under the dash. Okay, this is the new master cylinder that I got. Hopefully it is the right one. It looks right. Yeah, and see that rod should come from the car. That rod should pull right out of that master cylinder. Now this one doesn't have that plate like the one that we have in there does. So maybe this won't work. We're gonna have to see about that. Okay, you can see the back of that. I can guarantee the one we have in there looks different. But that there should just the rod should just push right in there, and that activates your brake. That's what I'm used to. All right, back to the car. All right, try and get you in here and show you what I'm doing. You can see this is the brake pedal, and right there, right here, the lighting is just awful in here. Yeah, right there. That's the nut that I'm gonna take off. There's a shaft and a nut, and that will allow the pin to come out, and then we can figure out what's going on with that master cylinder once that's out. So it's hard to set you up and also get in there, so I'll do that, and we'll be right back. Okay, I've got the pin off inside, off the brake pedal. That was a lot of fun, let me just tell you that. And this should now come out. Yeah. All right, we're gonna have to have a look at this on the bench and see what's what and if I can make this work. Okay, over to the bench. Okay, so really, it looks like the major difference is just how this plunger is maintained. So as opposed to having this plate with two nuts holding that in, it just has this clip here. Otherwise, these look nearly identical. So I think we're in good shape. We just got to get this out. And I'm going to put it in the vise, and we're going to see if I can make it say hello. All right. I'm going to see if I can use a little bit of persuasion on that plunger. Let's just get this up out of the way. Okay, all right, that's the action I'm looking for. Just why won't this pin come out? I don't think it's screwed in there, is it? It just corroded. All right, we're in business. It looks a little bent to me, but we'll put it in the vise and see if I can straighten that out. But, okay, I think we're going to be all right now. We've got a new boot, and we've got a new seal for the end here. So, okay, I think we're going to be all right. Let's get this out of here. Yeah, I think we'll just do a bit of wire wheeling. We'll clean this up. Let's get this off. It does just roll it. Yeah, it's definitely bent. Okay. All right, I'm going to clean these parts up, and we'll resume in a minute. Okay, got all the components cleaned up. I'm not going to coat them with any paint. I think that's unnecessary, and in this case, going too far. So a couple things I've been thinking about. I don't know for certain, but I have a feeling this is just for shipping from the manufacturer. So I've cleaned up the original retainer here, and it will go in place there with the two nuts that I have here. And I'm pretty sure that's required because, as you'll see, this is going to be used to retain the boot. So fairly confident. If you think I'm wrong with that, you go ahead and put it in the comments. We're going to go and pull this off and put this on. Maybe. There we go. That looks good. And the boot this way. Oh, I might have wanted to wait for that seal. We'll see about that. Well, we got her. You can see that's going to slide onto there and be happy. And then this, I'm going to put just a little bit of lube on here. And a little in here. There we go. I know you can't see. There you go. All right. Yeah, that's what we want. That should be what we're looking for right there. So next thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll bench bleed this, and then we'll get it in the car. Okay, bench bleeding. Let's get this thing bled. What we're doing is just getting rid of all of the air inside the master cylinder. Okay. Yeah, you can do this in the car, but I find that to do that, you really need two people so one can watch what's going on here. If you've never done this before, it really is quite straightforward. You do need to get a kit or make one. That's fine too, but I've got a kit here that I've used for I don't know how many years. You want to get these plugged into the front and the rear brake ports. Just snug. You don't need to put them at 50 foot-pounds. Oh yeah, I want this one back here. Sorry, two different sizes. We want this one here. Come on. There we go. Snug. And then this one here. Snug. Comes with this little retainer, which is just handy to clip onto the center. Like this. And you want to make sure that both hoses are fully submerged in the liquid. Brake fluid, that is. That's what you're looking for. Now we just need brake fluid. I've got some leftover .3 here, so we're just going to use that. And then I'm going to just push in, and hopefully you'll see. I'm going to zoom in for you. All right. I'm going to press this in. Should see, yep, certainly the bubbles coming out. You want to go all the way in with that plunger. You need to add a bit more already. Got to make sure your two hoses are fully submerged. Otherwise, you're going to draw more air in. Nice, slow, steady motions. All right, I'm happy with that. So now we just need to disassemble the bleeder kit, and it got a couple plugs here I can put in there to make sure that the fluid's not dripping out all over the place. Okay. That is good to go. Okay, Bled, ready to go back in the car. Okay, let's get this back in the car. And we can move on with the really fun part of doing brakes. I don't have a gasket. There should be one in between the firewall and this, but again, we're not building a finished car here. At least not yet. We will be building a finished car soon. Installed. We're not going to hook these up yet because we're still going to put brake cleaner in both of these lines once we get the brakes disassembled at the wheels, and we're going to blow these lines out and get them cleaned out and make sure that all the old fluid is out and that they're clear and no issues. So that'll stay, but I'm going to go now and hook up the bolt to connect the push rod of the master cylinder here with the brake pedal, and then we'll move on to pulling these front tires and brakes off. Can't wait. Okay, it's time to get into these front brakes. Let's get at her. Okay. Well, I sure hope this drum comes off. Okay, that's nice and dry. That's fantastic. keeper should come off without the nut. It's stuck. There we go. There we go. Keeper. Wonder how the bearings are in this one. Your guess is as good as mine. I mean, at least there's not water in here, but as you can tell, it's been a long time since anyone's been in here doing anything. Oh my goodness. How lucky are we? Bearing. Okay. For what we're doing. We'll clean that up, repack. She'll be good. Should be good. Oh, that's a blessing that came off without a fight. Oh, the pads are pretty good too. My goodness. Okay. We'll just clean that up in there. I'm not putting new drums on this thing. No way. We'll just clean her up and send it. It's pretty good. It's not too greasy in here, so there wasn't a rear seal leak, nor does it appear to be a leaky wheel cylinder. So giddy up. I'm very happy with that. We are still going to replace that wheel cylinder, and I have new brake shoes, so we'll contemplate that. We'll get the new ones out and just compare. There's a fair amount of bite left on these, so I don't know if it's worthwhile replacing. All right, well, I'm going to get a couple photographs of the setup here, even though I've got the other as a guide. I still want to get a couple photographs just in case. And then we're going to rip this apart, pull the wheel cylinder, and you might be able to see it, but this brake hose right here. We got to start working on juicing and heating and try and break those connections. Let's see if I can get that brake hose off, because I'm sure it's constricted. It's probably never been replaced. All right. So glad I got new flex lines. You can see right here how cracked they are. So, but you can also see how problematic this is going to be. So we're going to work on this right now. We're going to get some wire brush action going on here, and we're going to get some heat, some WD, and try and break this free. We do not want this to break because I don't want to run a new line. And we've got a similar situation over here that we're going to have to deal with right there. So we'll get to that in a minute. You can see though that I didn't quite get all the mud off the car. Still quite a bit baked in here, but we'll pick that away before the tire goes on. Okay, let's get going with some wire wheeling and juice and heat. Okay. Juice. Heat. Juice. Yikes. Come on now. Well, she's burning now. Okay, juice. Let's give her a little tug and see if she'll go. Okay, need to get wrench. Pliers will do. Come on. All right. Okay. All right, but you can see it's turning the brake line. So okay, here she comes. I think maybe not. I think she's turning it. Yeah, I think it's turning it. Son of a gun. Yeah, it is turning it. Dang. All right, let's try a little bit more heat. Okay. Juice. Come on. I got bad feeling. So again, it's free from the flex line. This fastener is free from the flex line, but it's bound up on the brake line and it won't unscrew. We could do is cut the brake line and unscrew that and put the new one in on here first. That might allow us, if it's not already broken. to save that brake line. It's a short run. I mean, I can put a new one on, but yeah, I have to put a new one on. I'm worried about that. I just don't want to deal with a failed brake. Okay, well, let's bite the bullet then. You see how that's turning that line? She's toast. There. Wow, stubborn. Need a hammer. Oops, sorry about that. What are you so stubborn for? Why are you doing that? There we go. All right, hopefully that, yeah, it is a really short line. It's just now, of course, I got to try and get it off of the distribution block on the other side of this frame rail. That'll be good times too. Anyway, we'll forget about that for now, and we're gonna move on to breaking down this drum and getting all the components off of it, and go from there. All right, let's break this down. All right, yeah, strip down. We'll turn around to the back now and get this wheel cylinder off. Well, first we got to get that flex line off, then we'll get that wheel cylinder off. Well, we are into it now. So, yes, we've got to replace that line, 18 inches long. As long as I can get it freed from the distribution block, we should be okay with that, easy. We'll have a new flex line. But now look at the back of this drum. This little curly Q, I tried to take off real quick, and I used heat juice. It's toast. It's not coming. So I'm gonna have to cut that off and make one of those now. That's attaching to the back of the wheel cylinder, and that's all in the way to get that off. So I'm gonna cut it off and we'll go from there. Okay, so here's where we're at. I've got the old wheel cylinder out, as well as the bracket for the old curly Q that I was showing you that is broken off, and the old brake hose, and this is the brake line that goes from the distribution block over to the brake hose. So I'm going to be at a bit of a standstill tonight because I need to go and get some brake line and fittings and remake those. So meanwhile, I do have the new wheel cylinder. It's the right one. Thank you, Rock Auto. So happy with that. Got the new flex hose, flex line. That looks great. So happy with that. And so I also have new brake shoes over here. So we're good on those. And I have also a hardware kit. So what we can do right now is reassemble the drum and get it ready for the new brake lines. So that's what we're going to do. All right, first we're going to pull this wheel off. I want to have a look and see what we're into on this side. Okay, I was able to get this passenger side brake line fitting unseized, if you will, from the flex line. You can see here I've got good movement there. So that line is probably okay. There's some corrosion for sure, but again, for what we're doing here, I'm hoping that's fine. The drum came off with a little bit of force. Behind the scenes, the curly Q was seized up again, just like the driver's side. So I had to cut the curly Q in half and then use vice grips to get the two fittings off. And I've got the bracket here. This is the bracket there. So I'll get that bracket cleaned up. There's the flex line there. So I'm going to have to make a new curly Q to go from this bracket to the wheel cylinder. Otherwise, this side just needs a drum brake rebuild. And this side, actually, like the other, looks pretty good. We will go ahead, obviously, and pull all this out. And I've got the same on this side. I've got new shoes and I've got a new hardware kit. So we'll go through the process of cleaning up the backing plate and we'll reassemble. Okay, we're going to go ahead and button up the passenger side front. I've got new shoes, the new wheel cylinder, new hardware kit, and the other parts that had to come off and be reused, like the adjuster wheel is all cleaned up and brake greased, ready for reinstallation. Got the backing plate all wire wheeled down and just rust painted, so it's protected, and we're ready to go. Let's get this installed. Rock and roll. Okay, let's start with the wheel cylinder. These are side specific. This open section here for the brake line needs to point backward, and this is left blank. Let's get this going. Okay, with the wheel cylinder installed, we're going to put some brake grease on the backing plate for the drums to slide on. Don't need a lot. These are the friction surfaces right here for the shoes. This side brake shoe is the larger shoe, goes in the back, and it also has the adjuster. There. That might have been hard to see, but you'll see the other side a little easier. And let's do that one now. So, brake shoe only can go on one way. Easy. Okay, now with that, we can get busy with the adjuster. All right. This goes on first. It presses the brake shoes in, keeps them aligned. Adjuster. Move my arm so you can see, but this loops in here. This is the lever for that spring. And then we need one of the new springs. That easy, so to speak. Oops. Okay, now we'll put our adjuster in. The short end, the end that doesn't have the screw, the bolt that adjusts out to provide tension, goes to the front. It slides in between the shoes. And the last thing is this spring here, which keeps tension on the bottom of the shoes. You can use a tool for this, or you can really, I find, just as easy, use pliers and spring it. That's it. Drum brakes installed. Here's the finished passenger side here, ready to go. Really the only thing left to do once I clean up that drum is we'll place the drum on and we'll set the tension or the space between the shoes to make sure that they are just about to make contact or making light contact with the drum itself, and we're good to go. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and get one side of the flex line installed at least while we're waiting for the brake line to make the curlicue on the back of the hub. So you'll see that I've just got this spinning freely, but also I wire wheeled it just to clean up the threads, make sure that we are good and clean, and then of course brake cleaned it. This is the new end of the flex line. Okay, the time has come to remake those brake lines that were damaged when I pulled the old fittings off. So I've got some new line, I've got fittings, and I've got everything laid out here to get this process started. Let me show you what's going on. Okay, so I got a 25-foot roll here that I was just playing with in the bender. It's just plain steel line. It is coated, but steel line. And I've got a bunch of fittings, both 3/8 inch nut and 7/16 inch nut. We'll need both of those in order to make these fittings. We have to make 2 of these curlicues, I've been calling them, that go in the back of the drum. That'll be fun. And this line here, which goes from the distribution block on the driver's side frame rail over to the flex line. That I don't think will be too much of a problem. These are going to be all kinds of fun. And that's where we're going to start. Let's get the hard part done first. So this particular curlicue is from the passenger side. And what I know from fitting it on is that this end right here goes into the wheel cylinder. And this end, although cut off, needs to be about 3/4 of an inch longer and also a 3/8 foot fitting, and we'll go into the flex line. So we're going to start by building one of these for the passenger side, and what we're going to do is build it to length flat, and then we're going to bend it because I will not be able to bend it and then put it into the brake line flaring tool that I have here. This is a fantastic tool. Works really easy and really just really well, but it's not going to support a small line like this with those kind of bends. So we'll get the right length, then we'll bend it. Sorry, we'll get the right length, then we'll flare it, and then we'll bend it. At least that's the plan. Let's see how it goes. Okay, first thing I want to do is I want to get an idea of the length of this. And to do that, I'm just going to use this wire here. I know that we need another 3/4 of an inch length on that, just from placing it in and mocking it up on the drum. So we're going to just bend this wire around until we've got something that looks about the same. We're doing this because we need to know how long to make this flared piece. I'm liking that right there. That's very representative of the piece we have to build. So that should be the length. I'm going to cut that right there and we're going to flatten it out. Okay. So this flattened out like so. Is basically how long we want that flared end. Flared end 3/8 on there, flared end double flare on, sorry, on both ends, 3/8. Okay, so let's get cracking here. Actually, since I've already got a flare on there, let's leverage that. We'll measure this out. And that's where we want to cut it. I'm gonna mark that with a marker. Okay. There we go. Now, it's not a great cut by any means. I'm going to use. I don't have a deburring tool, but drill bit can suffice. Not the ideal way to do that, but it should do what we need to do. Now we just need to sand off the edges because it's got a definite burr on the outside. If I did this a lot, I'd have a better tool there, but it'll work. Okay, I think we've got that to a good place. So we will get that in the flare. Before we do that, it's always good to have your fittings on beforehand. You know what I'm saying? That one does look pretty good. And facing the right direction. Ha! Which we do. So let's get this flared and rock and roll. Okay, this is the top view of the flaring tool. Look, I used to use one that many of you probably have, just like this. And it does the job, but when you see how well this works, you might be convinced that you want to spend the money. All right, so I've got the right die here. There's a number of dies that you can choose, but of course we need the 3/16 inch die and a double flare end on it. So you put it in here roughly flush. I'm just going to slide this over to OP operation 0. Put the die back in the right way. Close this down. Put light tension, just light tension on that. OP1, pull the lever. That will flush the brake line to the die. You then tighten this down fairly tight. Go to OP1 for 3/16, like that. Run that down. Go to OP2, 3/16, run that down. Done. That's how easy that process is. It appears to be a pretty nice fit there. If you can see that, that's pretty good based on what we started with. And there it is, very small little brake line. So now the fun part is bending that. Let's do that. Okay, this is what we're trying to make, and I want to get that first bend. I don't have maybe the best bending tool, but this is what I have right now and what we're going to try to use. It's got the 3/16 in die in there. I'm just going to make a mark now. So we want the bend to start about here on there and come around. So let's try. This is going to be trial and error, but that's why I got 25 feet of brake line. We can make a mistake or two and still get her done. Okay. I'm trying not to damage the flare at the same time. Let's keep going. Okay, that's got it started, but it's not really what I want. Okay, so now we're going to move to manual bending. That's got to come around a lot. So let me see. What can I use here? Handy. All right, just hold there. We're going to go and get a couple pieces of steel I can use to bend around. Okay, we're going to try and use the vise, combination of the vise and another tool I got here. So we're just going to get a little bit more bend on this, because I need it a little bit more aggressive off the line there. Let's just check that. Yeah, that's starting to come around. So that's good. We just need to start to bring this around more even. Okay, that's looking really good there. You probably can't see that well, but I'll bring that over there. So we're starting to get that shape there. Pretty good. So now we just need to bring this around and out that way. And for that, I think I'm going to try and use this. If I can get that around. that's getting her. Let's see if, oh boy. Come on. All right. So back there. That's getting really close now. So we just need to bring this out that way. I think we'll be good. So let's now. That device there without my glove in there. Thank you. Just try to give that some gentle bends. It's close, but a little bit more. Now we're really getting close. We just need to bring that up now. That might be it right there. If it's not, it's very close. So it's worth test fitting this and see just how close we are. Okay, I'll go test fit and we'll see where we're at. Well, would you look at that? It actually worked. Let me get you back in here. You can see there's the old curly Q. I think it turned out okay. I know some of you are going to say, there's no gravel guard. Yeah, I know. That's the wire that wraps around to protect the brake line itself. But remember, this is just to get this car around the yard and, yeah, maybe to a cruise night. But it's just not meant to be a permanent fix. All of this is going to get replaced with disc brakes and so on. But hey, come on. I think that works. Of course, we'll know for sure when I get the other side done and we try to press the brake pedal after we do some bleeding. But I think we're happy. So I'm going to go and build the other side and I'll be back. Okay, so I've got the driver's side curly Q in place. Really the same process as the passenger side. I think we're good to go. Of course, we'll know once we get it under pressure, but I think the flares turned out okay and no damage to the line while bending it. So I think we'll be okay. Now we have one more line to bend. That's this one here. And so this goes from the distribution block around the frame rail, bottom part of there, and then over to the flex line. So let's measure this up and get it started to bend. Okay, same process. I've got a wire here that I'm going to use to help measure this thing out so we know what we're looking for. Not quite as critical on this one because, well, I guess it is. I was going to say that it's not as tricky as the curly Qs, but Yeah, actually, we still want to get this reasonably right in length. Like that. I think that's gonna be very close, if not ready to roll. All right, I'll get it in the car and show you. All right, there's a look at that line coming off the distribution block. And you can see how it tucks under the frame rail. And let me show you the other side. There we go. That's it. It's not factory, but it'll work. At least that's the plan and the hope. So provided my flares are in decent shape, given how crappy my cutter was, as long as I got that okay, then we should be good. So the next step is to throw some fluid in this thing, and we'll probably hit the pedal a few times, try to pump some juice through. Once they open the bleeders up, we'll do a bit of gravity bleed and a proper bleed to the brakes. Let's get that going. Okay, I've got the lines hooked back up to the new master cylinder, and I've got the cap off. I'm going to top up the fluid, and then we're going to open up some bleeders on this front. Oops. And we're going to let that gravity bleed. Okay, you know the best thing about gravity bleeding? Sit back and have a beer and watch it. Let's do it. Okay, we're going to button up the passenger side. I have the drum here for this side. I did take a wire wheel to the inside just to clean it up a little bit. It really wasn't that bad. And remembering what we're doing here, we're just getting brakes that work effectively in this car. We're not looking for perfection because all of this is going to come off as part of the build. But did want to do a little bit of cleanup, so I did that. I did not replace the inner seal here. If again this was the proper build, I would say the final build, then of course I'd pull that rear seal out, pull the bearing out of the inside bearing that's in there as well, check it, repack it, and replace it probably, and all of that. But again, given what we're doing here, that's not the scope of work that we're after. So a light cleanup on the inside of the drum. I did take the wire wheel to the outside and just clean it up a little bit and give it a quick spray of semi-gloss black just to make it look a little better. Again, probably went too far with that, but it's ready to go. What we're going to do final prep on this is just give the brake pads themselves a spray with brake clean, just because they likely have picked up contaminants from my hands and working with all of the grease and what have you around here. So just give that a good clean. Yeah, you can see that they certainly were dirty. Now, there. That should give us a good starting point with those pads. We'll do the same thing for the inside of this drum. I'm just going to spray that. It might be off camera, but you get the idea. I'm just spraying the inside of the drum, and we're going to wipe it out. There. That gives us a good clean surface that has no grease. All right. So let's see. I will also just do a quick break, a blow out of here. Make sure that we've got any contaminants out. Okay. The next thing I will do is just put a little bit of fresh grease inside here. Again, if you're doing this yourself and this is the hub and the brakes you're going to use on the road for dependability, do not do what I'm doing. Replace the seal, replace the bearings, or repack them at least. But for what we're doing, this is all we need. Just a little bit of fresh grease inside here. Make sure the seal is lubricated. All right, that's all we need. So now what we have to do, if you recall, is we did an initial setup of the lower adjuster here, and it's probably not set right. We're going to find out in just a second how far we're off. The brake shoes are pushed all the way in on both the top and the bottom, so we know that they're in the right position. We can go ahead and slide this drum on. And what we're looking for here is to check to see what kind of contact we have between the brake pads and the drum. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's perfect out of the box, so to speak. We've got that because you just want light friction or tension between the shoes and the drum for this initial install. That's what you want, and so that's what we've got. If it wasn't making any contact, we would move the adjuster so that the shoes came out and got the contact we're looking for, which gets this light. You can hear it probably with the mic friction. If the drum wouldn't go on, then that would mean that we've got the shoes pushed out too far, so we'd have to dial it back. But kind of got it out of the box. Okay, I don't know if that'll be the same on the other side, but hey, I'll take it. So we should be good to go now with the final. Once I put this back together, and I'll walk you through that, we should be good to go on the final bleeding of the front brakes. Right now, they're gravity bled, so we're in good position now for a final bleed. But we now have to bundle up or finish up this front bearing and get it all back together. I did, because it was already out and easy to do, take the outer bearing, which, by the way, the race inside there for the outer bearing is in great shape. So I don't know if these are original. They are Timken bearings made in the US. They could be original to the car. They might have been replaced. With 65,000 miles, probably the original, but hard to say, right? Either way, these are in great shape. But because I did clean them, we've got to repack them. So to do that, I'm just going to get some grease in the palm of my hand. If you've got a bearing packer, well, then you're off to the races. But I'm just going to get these kneaded in here. You can see when you do this, the grease gets pushed up inside the rollers, and that's what you want. You can see now how that grease is all squished out now in between the inside of the bearing and the outer roller cage. That's what we're looking for. Just turn it around and make sure we've got. And then we'll flip it over. Do the same thing on that side. That's plenty good. So I'm going to put a little bit of grease now inside of here, inside the race. And then we're going to take that and slide it on the right way. It's the smaller diameter and going against the race. Now, just do a little wipe. Okay. So now we need this washer. We need the nut here. Okay, hand tight that, and then what we're going to do, one sec, is we're going to use, we'll just use the adjustable wrench here, and you want to tighten this down good and tight because we want to seat everything. So we'll get that on there, and we're going to push good and tight. So now what we've done is we've just made sure that all the bearings, inner and outer, and the races are fully seated. Now we're going to back it off just a little. And now we're going to come just light. So it's just snug now. And we're just going to back it off a little after that. So that should give us the preload that we're looking for there. You can do a test with the hub and try to move it in and out and make sure that there is no movement in and out because you want some preload on those bearings. Now we'll go in with the cage. And sometimes that cage isn't going to line up for the cotter key. In this case, it did. If it didn't, I would always err on the side of tightening the nut to line up the cage with the cotter keyhole, not loosening. In this case, we are good, so we'll put the cotter key in there. And bend it around. And we'll cut off this lower. That's what we're looking for. We'll put the cap on with some fresh grease. I did clean the cap. It was out. Why not? And we'll just put a little bit more grease into this. Make sure that we have a little extra in case it needs it, so to speak. You don't need to pack this thing full. Don't do that. You don't want too much grease in here. All right, just get my rubber hammer and giddy up. Just finish this up like this. Okay, this side is good to go for the final bleed. Okay guys, front brakes are all buttoned up. They look solid. Tires are back on, car's on the ground. We're gonna try and move this car out of the garage. We'll sweep up, and we're going to bring it back in. We'll see how it is. I haven't touched the back brakes. If I don't have to, I'm not going to bother. Let's have a look. That's it, guys. This car runs, it drives, and it stops. Just what I wanted before we move on to the next phase. And that's where we'll pick you up next. In the next episode, we're going to get into the interior of this thing. We'll pull the seats out, we'll rip out the flooring, we'll take a look, and importantly, get a look at the metal underneath, just see where we're at. I want to understand if we're going to need to put a full floor pan on this thing or just some sections. So we'll take a look at that and see what we're in for. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Throw a like and a comment and subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you next time.